Hello, and thank you for joining us for this live Transcending Ascension podcast, joined by my wonderful co host, Samantha Consciously of the Metaphysical Fat Podcast. And we have our wonderful guest here today, Cassandra DeAnn, a galactic astrologer. And we're excited to dive right in with the questions with her today because it's fascinating. And I've followed her journey of the beginning of her YouTube, and I've watched it bloom, and it is just wonderful to see everyone coming online. So let's dive in. Thank you for being here today, Cassandra.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today.
And we are very excited to have you here. Let's just start with the complete basics. What got you started here on this journey? What woke you up, and what called you to start implementing healing of others into your spirituality?
Awesome. Wow. Yes. As I'm sure so many say to you, so much to start there. Where to begin? So, interestingly enough, I am not someone that was ever looking to go towards this direction at all. I was actually raised in a very constrictive, controlling, fundamentalist religious background. So, I mean, none of what I do now was ever entertained. I mean, we were told the dinosaurs weren't even real. So, there was no entertaining of spirits or, galactic beings, anything like that. So, I actually had a spontaneous spiritual awakening during a solar eclipse that just happened to be when I found out later at a predominant placement in my personal astrology, and it just was like overnight, literally overnight, completely transformed into who I am now. The first thing was astrology. It was like I just got astrology like it was nothing. I like to describe it as it was internal knowing that was already there, just kind of coming to the surface. And it was I say it's a slow process, but it wasn't. It was fairly quickly, but it was slow coming around to the galactic side of where I am. I loved human design at first. I was like, okay, this is logical. My brain can like wrap around the systems here. This is a great starting place. And my gifts just continued to grow. And I'd say within a period of 3 years, here I am now as a certified galactic astrologer and a trance channeler. So.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I'll throw it to Sam to ask the first questions here.
Oh, lovely. Well, there's so much to dig into. I'm absolutely fascinated by the way. So you said that you had this spontaneous awakening. What did that look like for you? Was it just like all this information? Was it like an inner knowing? Did you feel like you got a sudden sense of purpose? How did that unfold for you?
I love that question. Such a good question. So, I would say there are a lot of times when people go through just sudden jumps like that, there's like a death in or some major event. There wasn't really anything like that going on for me. I was at a pivotal point in my career that I reached this pinnacle to where I was like, yes, I was a floral designer. I worked in the wedding industry for over 10 years. I accomplished all the things that I thought I wanted, and it just sort of began to unravel slightly beforehand. And I was never really open to anything in particular metaphysically. However, 5 years prior, a friend, there's so many stories. I'm trying to keep track. Ever since a child, I would have regular presents and things of that nature. And about 5 years before my awakening experience, I realized that one of the energies that was visiting was my grandfather. And so my friend at the time said, "Come to this psychic. I did, but then afterwards, the second something in my life went wrong, I was like, I invited the devil in. I'm going to hell. Everything is disastrous. So the day of my awakening, I actually did schedule with my life kind of in shambles to go see this psychic. Interestingly enough, on the way there, I decided to put up a podcast that talked about astrology. And it was an hour drive. And just by the time I got there, I was just saying everything. Like I just knew things. And she was like, yeah, that's accurate. Yes. I don't even remember what was said in the reading. It was just this aha moment, which is interesting because most of my experiences are quantum leaps like that, where it goes almost from not getting it to I got it. So the next day, the girls I worked with, my spouse at the time, they were like, you feel different, you speak different, I don't know what to do with this.
Do you feel you could have had a walk-in? Sorry, just to put that out there.
I have been asked that a lot. And I entertained that at first, but from my intuitive feeling, my own practice with my guides, I was not a walk-in. But yes, that is I definitely entertained that because I went on to lose everything in that life. I was so different. Nothing really stayed with me in the end. So it was that drastic, like you hear often with walk-in experiences.
Yeah. I've had similar jumps myself, and we've toyed with the walk-in thing because I know Samantha thinks she might be a walk-in, or I think she thinks she is. I'm the one who's like, and I can't experience because I'm like you, where I had drastic shifts. I'm not the same person whatsoever, but I feel like a thread holding me to that original child, like the whole experience. Yes. I know I changed. And I think it's like an expansion where you pull in more archetypes and you pull in more of your truest, highest self. So it's like you're expanding and you still have the older parts, but they were small to begin with. Like we used to be small. Yeah. And so the expansion kind of leaves that older small person in the background, I feel like. She's still there, and I found like I still have to honor her with certain things, like because she just, I don't know, like I feel like her there is a presence kind of thing, where like originally I completely had walked away and there was dissonance. And when I went back and started honoring the old self as well, and that kind of right there kind of proves that it's all one and the same person, and you pull in the totality of self, which really is a lot of this game. And a lot of what we do is just all modalities to help bridge in that totality of self.
Yes, I love that. That was beautifully stated. I totally agree. When we look at, it's my belief, all of our past experiences, especially the work I do with Galactic Astrology, I see, as you mentioned wonderfully, that thread. There's often similar themes, and I like to look at it as everything that which we are is here always, and it's just accessing that and it coming in into clarity. But I mean, I guess it would be slightly in some aspects overwhelming if we had infinite ability to access that all immediately. Like some of it is coming into and stretching us vibrationally to hold that frequency.
Yeah, you can see that. Sorry, I'll throw it to you, Sam, in a second. So you could see that with yoga, right? Like if you were to all of a sudden just like, I'm going to do splits, you'd rip your tendons and your muscles and everything, versus like practicing a little every day. Now you can do the splits. So it's like stretching, except with this, it's like our etheric fields or our biofields. I like that term. Like, but what do you think, Samantha?
No, I was just going to say that's really interesting, just because there's a couple of things I wanted to touch on. So we talked about Diana, your experience and how you felt like it was just, you'd still got this bit, but you'd like decompartmentalized it into a different area. So how I was kind of perceiving that was everything's existing all at once anyway, isn't it? Every single experience that we've had. And all we're doing is going back to that point where you were that person, because that's kind of what we're doing when we're going back to the inner child, isn't it? You're going back to that point in your life. So you might have some kind of emotional charge or dissonance, that you need to align energetically to bring it back into coherence with your current now. I do think there are walk-ins, but I also think what can actually happen is we go through these death rebirth cycles. And what we're actually doing it's a process of grieving who we were. And that can sometimes happen over a long period of time, or it can potentially happen like you did, Cassandra, overnight. You can have this thing where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a completely different person. But I think we can also channel and stream more of ourselves, so potentially higher self, other aspects of ourselves into the same vessel. And I know we've spoken about this before, Diana, haven't we? It's the combination of streams of consciousness that amalgamate and that we bring through as this projection of our personality and our experience. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Cassandra?
I agree. I think that, that resonates what you're describing. Absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry, I tend to go off on them.
No, I felt
love
that.
it.
It's true. And just earlier today, I was thinking like,
oh, she does this sometimes. She's got dodgy internet. She'll be
You guys-
very abstract.
Okay, I'm back. Good. So like we grow, and origami was the reference, and like how origami is like one thing and it folds in and makes all these different things, and it's like what we can do, like as the oversoul being the origami that can create endless versions of us. But I want to go back to human design, Cassandra. You mentioned human design. Do you know your type then?
Yes. So I am a 4/6 emotional manifesting generator, and I'm the right angle cross of penetration.
Oh.
So yeah.
Very interesting. I've only just recently come to human design because Diana's a big fan of that, and I can't even remember what mine is now, but she's frozen. She'd be able to tell me. Is that so? You mentioned that you started in human design. Was that, how did you kind of get into that? Because I know you mentioned that were you fundamentalist Christian? Is that where you were starting point?
Yes, yeah. So it was somewhere between evangelists and fundamentalists.
Okay.
So we had it was very tightly controlled. Yes. Yes, very tightly controlled. So yeah, there's a lot of things I could say about that, but yeah. So how I got into human design was actually after my awakening experience. Astrology played a part in that. And it was, as I said, something I just sort of quickly kind of grasped and understood. But my frustration, and when I say quickly, let me put that into context. So my awakening experience was on June 9th of 2021.
Okay. Wow.
By July, I was already pretty set in astrology. September was my first human design. I was going to do a human design reading for myself because it kept coming into my circle of reality. It was like, over here, look over here. And I was like, nah, I like astrology. But what I found is when you're speaking to people, unless they also have an understanding of astrology, it could feel as if there's a barrier there. Where human design, you can take all sorts of language and apply it easily, where someone can take their chart after a reading with me and be like, oh yeah, well, before I got to my reading, the beginning of September, I had already learned the fundamentals of human design, to where when I had my reading, there wasn't really much we covered. So she talked about, so that's the thing when I say it, the galactic piece took a while. Not that it did, but it was everything else happened so quickly. So by the end of 2021, I certified as a human design reader. I was able to insight the I Ching versus Gene Keys, which is a similar modality that uses human design concepts. All three of them I could interweave and connect them to astrology. It just kind of was a knowing that I felt But I loved it. It helped me understand myself when I didn't have language that really helped me absorb and digest it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like human design for the same reason. It's very clear, it's very literal,
Yes.
and you can talk about it with others. Like when you do, because I do human design readings too, and
Awesome.
though I understand astrology just as much myself, there's like when you're trying to explain it and like because there's so
Yeah.
many variables I think in astrology, and there's just
Yes.
something about
Yes.
human design that is so straightforward. And
Forward.
sorry, you cut out when you were I heard manifester. Were you a straight manifester or manifesting generator?
So I'm a 4/6 emotional manifesting generator, and I'm the right angle cross of penetration.
Nice.
So.
Okay. Yeah. And then Sam, did you have any questions?
Yeah, so I'm absolutely fast. I love you, by the way. Not to make it weird. I just found you today. I'm going to follow you, and yeah, you absolutely fascinate me. So you were talking about how it all kind of interlinks. So I'm not very adept at astrology, human design, or anything. I dipped my toe in. I know a brief overview of it, but I would like to get your thoughts on how people could use that to actually help with their own healing journeys. Because I'm sure there are ways. I found it personally, Dan. I know you have as well. We can incorporate these aspects, and when we look at maybe the bits that are a bit more malefic, we can use them instead of saying, "Oh, this is who I am." We use them as kind of not obstacles, but kind of guideposts to improve ourselves.
Yes, I love that. That is such a good point, because one of the things I don't love is when we can become fixated on certain things. And I mean, I feel like as humans, we all at one point or another are guilty. For example, I have a Capricorn moon, which is always like, I'm like, well, that's my Capricorn moon. It's like the scapegoat, but it's like, I know there are very positive qualities about that. It's not just about, well, this is just who I am because of this or that, because I see all of it as very quantum, and it's all has various expressions that are designed to be ever shifting and evolving and growing. So I think that when you're first getting to know yourself, whether through astrology or human design, these are great modalities, especially for those who do enjoy the logic. I found it based on my upbringing that was very manipulative. There was no sense of self. I mean, I didn't know what my favorite colors were. My first home reflected my mother. There was no me. So when I started unwinding all of this, it was like, oh my gosh, I see that. And even the things that I didn't embody, I could feel that part of me subconsciously that I was squashing down. So I think that these are great modalities to get to know you, to get to know how you engage with others, to get to know gifts that you have, how you express yourself, because we are all extremely unique. And then there becomes a point in your journey where it is so beautiful, where you can let that all go because it is all becoming and evolving and expressing, and it moves and it flows, and yes, those elements are still there. But I've always looked at astrology as like, your natal chart is a wheel for a reason, because you're meant to harmonize and balance and pull all of the things. You are all of that. And so, but I think it was a fantastic tool, especially for me in the beginning, that I needed to really start understanding myself.
That's amazing. That is, honestly, best answer ever. So it is a great tool when you said to flip, like deep diving. Did you find a correlation between like astrology and the archetypes? Did that help you at all?
So I have found, interestingly enough, it's only been since another quantum jump experience I had in 2024 that I've understood on a new level of myself as also being on the spectrum, which is interesting. My soul origins also add layers to that. Basically, I'm a system person, so I do see in archetypes and I like to connect dots. So when people talk to me, especially friends or even return clients, they'll speak and I'll say, well, that's your blah, blah, blah. Well, that's your gate such and such, or your, and they assume I have their charts memorized. I do not. I function through like an encyclopedia of patterns and behavior. So I can spot the archetypes. So it has been, honestly, being on the spectrum, a pivotal tool as well for me, because it helps me to understand other people, because that's one of the challenges being on the spectrum, can be understanding the nuanced human expressions.
Yes, and a lot of us are. I've literally changed it to like Divergent. And when you read the book series Divergent, it turns out the Divergents are the actual humans and the others were sectioned off. And if you think about it, we're born into a world that's not ours. We're meant to make the new world. So all the things that like we don't understand them and we blamed ourselves, honestly, I think it's because they don't fully make sense. They are just archetypes living out a narrative. And they lack the ability to fully step outside the box to think as like logically, because some of them can think they're logical, but they lack the ability to step outside the narratives that are preset for them. And sure, they seem like they're fully able to talk, not awkwardly, because they don't understand, like in our brains, a billion things are happening at once. And a lot of the times we think the things they have to say are dumb because they are. And we never cared and we fell behind on their ways of doing things because we always intrinsically knew it was dumb. But then like, look at you now, like, and I have had a very similar journey, like of waking up at such a rapid pace of just getting this information into my system as fast as possible. Like I look back, like 2015 was such like, that was that year for me. And it was just off the charts of my entire life changing and realizing like I was psychic. Like you talked about your grandfather. I was driving home from Montreal and I'm in Ontario. So I'm driving through Montreal. I go through my old town because I moved very far away. I also had a tyrannical family that like I had no sense of self. I didn't know my favorite color and I didn't know why. And now I can see why. And I'm driving through and I knew I had to stop and visit grandma. And we weren't even like a super close family, but I loved her. And, you know, I was like, visit grandma. I did. And I knew it. I felt it. Her soul was telling me she was going to die. Her soul was telling me she was scared and she needed like permission. And so I talked to her spirit before she even died. And 2 days later, she died. And there was no warning. She was 86 years old. So it's like, and I was just like, that was 2015. And I was like, oh my God, this isn't pretend. Because up until that point, I'd been like, oh, I'm just crazy. It's pretend. The narrative that Diana was crazy was known, you know, oh, she's just crazy. Raised atheist. I had a dogmatic upbringing as well, but atheist. So like coming into a magical existence was totally shattering the paradigm. But I think that's what the divergence are meant to do, shatter the old paradigm to birth the new.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and then actually that's let's get into the next jump then, the galactic jump that you've mentioned. So when did it switch from being like astrology to galactic? And I'm assuming that led to the trance channeling.
Yes, it did. So it was so once again, it took a while. I say that because I was spoon-fed it from the beginning. My very first Akashic record reading, I found out my soul origin, and I was advised to learn more about ancient Sumer and the Anunnaki and old souls, and like it just took me on a spiral. My soul origins was described to me as a blueprinter. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that means. And she said, okay, get the books from Dolores Cannon, specifically Keepers of the Garden. So I got the books and I was like, yeah, no, it wasn't time. Like, I wasn't ready. But it continually came up, and as I had another mentor where I started to get comfortable with my gifts, I would say. And upon our first meeting, she said, hey, you're a blueprinter. Once again, I was like, okay, this is now the second time this has come up, and so it was like this slowly. Dolores Cannon was what they used. They're like Dolores Cannon and my origins over and over and over. Still, like I said, this was from 2021. I still just wouldn't come around. And then it was probably mid 2023. And it came up that someone said to me, you really should actually become certified in astrology. And I said, I don't need to be certified in that. Like, I know that there's nothing, like, there's enough that I know, because you have to learn about astrology and human design as well. But I stumbled upon, as a podcaster one day, this astrologer, and she sounded like nothing I'd ever heard. And being the inquisitive person that I am, I wanted to know, how is she finding this stuff in, astrology? And so we worked together. She was on my podcast, and I went on her podcast related to human design, Gene Keys stuff, and fell in love with it. Ended up going to the program, and the program says it will be transformative. And I thought, okay, like, what's the worst that could happen? And so here I am now, which is why it's so interesting, because I have done session after session after session, and putting it into context, basically what Galactic Astrology does is it takes astrology, and it also studies fixed stars. And in doing this, it gives information on your soul's journey and your past life connections in other planets and stars and journeys. And this was introduced by Julia Balaz, and it came up because she had done so many QHHT, which was from Dolores Cannon, so many hypnosis sessions with clients. She started to spot patterns, and over thousands and thousands of hours in studies, she began to see the patterns correlating. And so, part of the process is we're trained to read the Akashic records. And basically, when I'm reading past lives to someone, I've not seen their picture, I've never met them before, I know nothing about them, but I'm revealing these incredibly rich, detailed past lives to where I can tell them what body type they were, what they look like, why they, all of these details. And they say to me, oh my goodness, this is quite literally what I am working through or experiencing now. And this correlates, and this correlates. Well, someone like me that's hesitant to there, but it's like, you can't make that up. It's just, so much of the work has been me just thinking, okay, well, that just happened.
Yeah. It's really weird because I need to stop saying that, so I'm conditioning myself not to say certain things. It's really interesting because when you were saying, before you even said that, I got in my head, it's like, oh, she's a galactic soul cartographer. I was like, what the hell is that? And then
I love it. Yeah. And because why I love the work in Galactic Astrology is because I look at it this way. For me, my perspective is I like to entertain. If we were to all as our souls decide we're part of collective conscious, a larger whole, if we're evolving and growing, I'd imagine if we were all sitting at a table, a group of us, and they'd be like, just think of projects in school. It's like someone has to be the researcher, someone has to take notes, someone has to be the presenter, and we're all like, ooh, I want to do that part. Well, what I'm finding through all of the sessions I did, the part, it's very much that way. So there's a thread through all of the past lives that somehow play with the 360 view of whatever that area of interest is. For example, for myself and reading my own past lives, for me is, can I show up in my authentic expression as an intuitive, being on the fringe or the outside of what's socially acceptable? And can people actually love, accept me? And can I have relationships and live a human experience? So,
You've got that witch wound.
So throughout my journey, and throughout my past lives, there were lives where I shared my gifts, but I used them through coerced, not great ways.
Mm-hmm.
We all have those experiences where we're learning, and I've had ones where I was open and I died, and ones where I was open and, wasn't received. It's just a 360 view of all of that. And it's interesting.
Yeah. So, sorry, I did overspeak that. Do you find that you've had a lot of issues with like the witch wound then, because of this persecution that you've undergone?
I missed part of that question. I think our technology on my end might have cut out. Can you rephrase that or share that question?
Yeah, of course. Sorry about that. Okay. So I was just saying, because of this element of persecution about showing up as your authentic self, which is a mirror really, isn't it? Allowing you to work through that process. Do you find, looking back in the Akashics, that you've had a lot of issues with the witch wound?
Yes, there has been. As a matter of fact, one of the more recent I've discovered, which also came up earlier in an Akashic Records reading and pretty much consistently has come up with other readers, was playing out this lifetime through my father, who had me murdered in past lives, and in this life I've been disowned by all of my family. And so basically part of my healing process, once I was able to broaden my perspective and see once again the full scope of the soul. It's easy to look at this experience and say this is all that is, but it's not. And so when I was able to broaden my perspective, I was able to shift out of the mindset of like, I'm the rejected child, nobody wants me, and come into a realization that what was happening is I was clearing this energy between my father. Because if you imagine, if you were to live and someone had you persecuted, well, you're persecuted. So there's not like you could go back in conversation and say, hey, what was that about? And so it offered me this opportunity in this life that says, are you going to choose yourself? Are you going to be okay in saying, it's all right if you don't accept me in this form. It's okay that our journeys are not the same. I can love and wish the best for you, and I can honor myself and choose to move forward, to choose to not hold ties to that, because if I did, then I'm just continuing to limit myself and create feelings that will continue to karmically entangle me in that circumstance. So it was very healing to find out about that example, because it did allow me to see a broader perspective and say, okay, yeah. And so I'd say, I've made a decision with the trance channeling and stuff as things that's gone. I'm like, okay, here we go. We'll see.
Yeah. Have you got a question, Dana, or am I right to jump in?
Actually, I wanted to like completely take a jump here. And so you work in human design, and then I see that you're steeped in ascension. And I find not a lot of people are that versed in human design yet. So I don't get the chance to a lot, but I love it. When it comes to the types, so all five, where I'm a projector, Sam's also she's a generator, and I'm trying to formulate, like you said, researching and formulating information. I'm trying to conceptualize the role for ascension based on type. So with everything you've seen and all the clients you have, what would you say each of the five types, their role is for ascension?
Okay, that's a good question. So now I might add this little piece because just for moving forward, to make sure I'm explaining this well, I know that there tends to be different definitions or ideas around ascension. My perspective of ascension isn't so much in the sense of the Buddhist expression of you've reached this completion.
No.
I see it ascension as just coming fuller and fuller more into our most authentic, powerful self. And I do feel like in the way in which we are presently, collectively, we are seeing more of this come online in interesting ways where people are accessing different forms of intuition, healings, and things that they're finding they're lacking titles for, and there's no boxes that's defining. And I feel like this is the evolution of the human, and I don't feel as if we are disappearing or going anywhere, but we are just evolving to this highest, most fullest, highest self-expression. That being said, so I do see the types as we all are connecting. One of the things that was very powerful that came up fairly recent for me, and it might sound like I'm rabbit trailing, but I promise I'm not. It will come around to this. One of the things that shared is when I was channeling the Acturians, they said the most important question that the human could ever ask to themselves is, how can I be me within the we? And they said the problem is that and they gave me this example of if you had groups of people and you're like, this is the A notes, these are the B notes, these are the C notes. This is the world in which we've been attempting to live. And what happens is there becomes different feelings like, well, I no longer feel like an A note. Maybe I'm a C note because we're evolving. Or, well, I'm around a lot of A notes. Like, what's my purpose? There's all of this, and it becomes like, they gave me an example of like trying to herd kittens. Like, we're just all over the place. Where they said, really, and they said that harmony comes with an understanding, how can I be me within the we? And when you do this, you create more harmonized energetic forms and sacred geometry to where you all find your portion in place. So while we are doing this, it's important. They said 3 important things is understanding the self. So yes, there is a lot of self-talk right now because I need to understand me first if I can understand what I'm contributing or how I am, adding to, such as our question. What are these different energies? What are they contributing? And then they said the individual also has to understand the ever-evolving nature of existence so that where you are, that can evolve. And 3, they have to appreciate the connection within the whole. You have to value that together we are harmonized, or have strength within harmony. When you have high vibrational individuals come together, the frequency is stronger and larger of an output. That said, so I look at the 5 different energy types as they are contributing different energetic factors to how things are happening. I can speak easiest on manifesting generators because I am one. We are a little bit of like what are they doing? Because we're bouncing here and there and it doesn't seem like it's adding any, it's like, okay, you were here. Why are you now here? I see this energy as the invitation and the call to the heart, the reminder that it doesn't have to be linear, and that while it may not seem like it makes sense, if you trust the process in your steps and honor your inner intuition, it's guiding you exactly to your highest expression. So I look at manifesting generators as kind of like the system breakers in that sense, and bringing that into attention. That's great. But at the same time, one of the things we're not awesome about is we may jump and later have to go back and fine tune things. That's where the generator is saying, yes, this is beautiful that you have this invitation, that you're deciding and finding what you love, and you're fine tuning that path. Let me help you see that, yes, there can be this, but also a little more attention to where you're going. Then we have projectors, which are even deeper into that program. But I see it as the projector has, in addition, the gift of being like, okay, you've got the manifesting generator hopping around like the kitten that you're trying to herd. The generator's like, okay, there's help, but the projector can be like, okay, guys, I see this is where you're gifted. This is where let's come together collectively. Like the projector is able to uplift and honor the individuality. It's able to be a glue that starts to formulate the me within the we. It can identify that. And then the manifestor, which we don't have as much of that collectively, but I feel like when we're looking at the manifestor, it would be, to me, I look at this also as a disrupting energy, but it's when we get too stagnant. It's when we're kind of like too comfortable in our own little clique over here, and we've kind of got the system and we're like, okay, yes, but the manifestor's like, remember, you're ever evolving. Nothing is ever static and forever. So it's the completion of a circle, and I see it in that way. So I hope, does that answer your question?
I'm just, and then reflectors, and I don't know if I know any, because they're only 1%. I know like they're fully open centers. And go ahead.
I would say yes. I would say for reflectors, oh, okay. I would say, how they talk about, okay, I got it. How they talk about the earth having its own heartbeat? That is the reflector in my mind. It is because I look at a reflector as the best guidance I've ever gave. What I give to reflectors is that when you focus within and you tune into your inner pulse, that is, you are the most synchronized with the rhythms, the natural laws, the natural cycles, the natural essence of things. It's interesting because I don't feel like the reflector is here per se to disrupt things, but it feels to me like the heartbeat. It feels like it's the ground, like the grounding presence that helps to connect us with something higher when they are aligned, and a way for us to see that we are honoring that within our journey.
Yeah, that makes sense, where they're being fully open. I'm sure they're very, very sensitive and would just naturally be tuned in whether they like it or not.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And then Sam, did you have any questions?
I mean, you blow my mind, to be honest. I've got those. Yeah. So the thing that I wanted to ask, really, because I'm a generator, and I don't always fit in with that particular type. I do have is it an open
I thought she was
throat
a
and
projector. I was like, oh, you must be a projector. And then when I was like, I was blown away that she wasn't. It actually shattered my human design beliefs because I was pretty rigidly into it. And I was like, maybe it's not as cut and dry as I thought because she is not what I thought a generator was. Put it that way.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, like, I know you speak about human design being fairly, I'm not going to call it rigid, but I'm going to say structured. What I kind of had a bit of a nudge was, as humanity is expanding and we're, like you beautifully put, we're coming more into ourselves. I feel like the structure of human design should actually be expanding as well. And that's the issue. Whereas with astrology, because it's so open and it's so, I want to say, it's like going to a buffet astrology, isn't it? You can put all different stuff together and make what you want, and you can take what you want, and it's almost like you've got this artistic palette to work with. Mm-hmm. But with human design, it does kind of feel like this is what you are, this is what you need to do. You need to wait for an invitation, you know, and it's not always, it doesn't feel quite right to me. It feels like it's kind of a base structure, but as I'm evolving as a human person, as Diana's evolving, as we're all evolving, I feel like we're breaking out of these containers and that potentially there's more that we could do to evolve human design as well. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
That's a very good question. And in part, that is why I moved a little bit towards Gene Keys for a while, which is where I received most of the transformation in my life. To add a little context for anybody listening not familiar with Gene Keys, it's hard to describe it. It's really a thing of in its own, but the general idea is it is using human design and the I Ching, which in human design, the 64 gates are the I Ching. But Gene Keys has a more, I like to describe, yin approach, an evolving approach to it. And one of the favorite things I have is Richard Rudd, the founder of Gene Keys. He spoke on, they call it Gate 60. And this is about structure. And it's interesting because, to answer your question, this is how I see it. There's the understanding, and this is why I describe it as quantum. There's Gate 60 presents structure. But the idea is in understanding that where we are, there is the benefit of structure in helping us to flow. Like if you were to look at a river, the structures help you flow. So there is value in that, but also there's the quantum nature of understanding that everything is evolving and shifting and growing in constant motion. Therefore, hold it lightly because it is ever changing. Allow it to grow like a living thing with you. Now, for you talking about not resonating with as a generator, I think that this is where with human design, the tricky part, because it's so it is very digestible to a level, then it does make you feel like you get roped in and excited about it. But the truth is that system is incredibly rich and complex in detail, but you usually don't go that deep in the content publicly. You hear spoken about and expressed. So you may, I'll give you a basic example. You may be a generator, and I'm just giving an example, but you may have energy like 52, which gate 52 is the Buddha channel. It says that you are grounded and have this sense of yourself that isn't going to necessarily feel like it jumps or is over responsive. It's more, grounded and steady approach and knowing. There are many gates like this. You may have 12. Gate 12 is caution. It says you may be gifted in sharing insight and guidance. And maybe a generator you could see is this all this energy that just like blah, blah, blah. But maybe it says you're grounded in your approach and you are more reserved. But when you speak, it really comes through. There's grounded energies and expressions, and based on your centers and what you have and how your unique design is, this can all make it seem as if the aura in which you put out, because that's what human design is, it's reading that aura, may not feel as someone else's does that is more obvious as a generator. So it's so nuanced in all the layers that would go into it, because your energy may say you are meant to have a slower, grounded approach, even though you're a generator.
Yeah, I was going to say that exactly that. Channels and gates can change the variance. And Sam, it ADHD. I forgot we were going through your channels, and then I think around the throat, because we were going through and you were reading them all, and I got tossed behind because yeah, there's tons of gates and channels that can change the variance of how you express an experience. And Ra himself did say if a generator woke up, they could save the world, because the generator would have the energy to facilitate it if they had the know-withal behind it, you know? So there's a lot to that. Definitely, we should get back to your channels and gates.
Definitely. Do you mind if I jump in with another question, Diana?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it is going slightly away from human design. What I'm really interested about is how you managed to marry it all up. Because the way that you present yourself, it's packaged perfectly. You're very well balanced. I can see that. You know exactly where you're going. You're very well defined. But there's lots of different bits. It's, again, going back to the buffet. It's like you've gone to the buffet and you're like, right, I'm going to have a bit of that, bit of that, bit of that. And I'm going to make this beautifully presented gift that I'm going to give to the world. Was it difficult getting there? And how did you put it all together?
I think that's the piece where it comes back to just the soul's knowing, because it did just come together. And as a manifesting generator, I've noticed that part of why I feel I was drawn to Galactic Astrology is because I was meant to learn more about the different beings and races that now assist me in trance channeling multiple beings. Because I can sense their different, I know their frequencies. So it's everything I've done, whether astrology, human design, galactic astrology, the trance channeling I'm doing now, everything has always just kind of woven with that. Now, I love, and that is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that kindness with me and observation. Just in being complete and real with you, there's also a lot of challenges in that regard with that, as I said, because with, for example, trance channeling, I'm loving it because my consciousness is removed. I do tend to be very logical, and I do like connecting dots, and that feels easy. That feels natural. So that feels safe. It feels affirming. It feels comfortable. When it's out of that, it does not. And so that is also with all of our journeys, like I said, it's the 360, it's the full scope. And so it has not ever been anything I've had to study to connect. It's just been I can weave all of the modalities I've learned, all of human design, gene keys, the I Ching, galactic astrology. I can weave them all and give rich details of a soul's journey. But yeah, on the flip side of that, it is hard because you can also get too comfortable there, and then you're not allowing that quantum space to kind of flow and evolve. So yeah, it's bittersweet.
Bit of a balancing act, maybe. I suppose it depends on the situation as well, because each person, I mean, I do channeling, Diana does channeling, and it's quite new to me as well. So I suppose it depends. Each person that you go to is going to have a very specific requirement. And I think in my own case, I give over to higher wisdom, I think, and guidance, because that's kind of, I know that they're going to direct me in the right way, you know?
Yes, I love that. Where I tend to, that has been a journey that I'm learning to be, which is why this is interesting that I'm doing this work. And then also, to, you know, to feel safe within that. I'll give you a funny example. So when I first started channeling just more galactic frequency before trance channeling, I was channeling for my partner, and he had a new set of guides come through. Now, one of the gifts that I have is I'm very good about reading energetic signatures of energy vibration. And so he had a new set of guides come through, and he was like, well, what is, it's a collect, you know, I told him, I said, I was getting that it was a collective frequency. And he said, okay, do they have like a name? Well, they said Hathors. And I said, no, that's not, that can't be, because the energy felt more like Thoth. It didn't, where Hathor, if you're, you know, is softer and more of the feminine. It's literally like more nurturing and the Empress energy. So it's like your signature isn't matching what the vibration is. And I argued. I was like, no, this doesn't make sense. You must be saying Hathor. Your energy frequency isn't aligning to what you're saying. And then my partner finally said, just give it up. Like, I just care about the guidance. And so I let it go. But later I went on, and I've heard apparently there is a collective vibrational frequency that's been channeled of the Hathors, that's come up in the past, and also in the book, The Law of One. And so he told me months later, this is actually their energy signature. It is a thing. I was like, okay. He's like, and you argued with them over their name.
It's a learning curve, isn't it? And absolutely, this is the thing. When you're doing it, it's like, who are these people? And I think we learn because we have to give things names, to conceptualize it, don't we? I can't even go into it really, because mine's a bit of a confusing journey at the moment. But it's like, kind of, I love what you were saying about, you know, the frequency, because even if you don't have the name, if you remember that, it doesn't matter, because the frequency is the name in a sense, isn't it?
I can easily pick up on the frequency of who's calling. And that's something we, you know, in my time, through even my partner asking energies that come through that they've said I've been able to do from an early age, been able to identify energy shifts in the room, and notice energy frequency shifts. And I've also learned that, considering my upbringing, it highly influences me learning to relax and trust, because I do have high integrity, and I do feel like I'm very mindful of what energy frequency through trance channeling, because my consciousness is recede. I don't even remember what was said. So for me, it feels as if there is a relationship that I've learned with the energies in which they will work with me. And I know how their energy feels, and how I can then say, okay, this aligns, I can move forward. Some of the higher beings are harder for me because what I've learned is they have to shift their frequency of how strong they could come in according to who's capable of handling the energy on the other side. So I have a hard time still with Thoth. Because he can lower his frequency enough for me to channel, but I have symptoms afterwards where there's a lot of energy kind of that I struggle with. But in the beginning, he would lower his frequency, and I was like, yeah, that's not Thoth. But when he raised his frequency, I couldn't handle it. And so he's been, probably of everyone I channeled, the more challenging one to relax into.
Yeah, that's wild, because I can relate to that, because energy sickness is something else. Like we did a thing yesterday, and this morning I was perfectly fine, and all of a sudden out of nowhere I got massive vertigo. I had to sit down. I was going to throw up, and it was out of nowhere. And then the only thing, I think it was like yesterday, I was like, I didn't ground enough, because it was just punch in the face. Wow. Or I guess punch in the stomach in this case, because these energies.
Oh, just these energies. Remember where she was. She'll come back then.
While we're waiting on that, one thing I've noticed within my clients is a lot of them are going through periods where they're drastically changing intuitively how they're eating without realizing it, and shifting and increasing their energy to try to regulate the higher frequencies that are coming on for so many people. Because like she said, there is a thing is energy sickness, and it's not bad. It's just we're learning to hold higher frequencies. And so they're, like she was saying, when you do some of these things, there can be afterwards symptoms, where it does require mindfulness of grounding, or what you're consuming, how much water you're drinking afterwards.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that's the big thing as well. I know what we're actually getting the process from my own experience is we're also, when we channel these energies, we're having like these energetic upgrades. I'll be 2 seconds then, I'll hand you back over. Sorry, my love. Yeah, so we have these energetic upgrades because it's essentially coming in, and we're being retuned to higher frequencies, and we're also being cleared, because when these frequencies are coming through, it's like emptying the dissonance that's ready to go in the channel, isn't it, essentially? So the next day, like I'll be perfectly honest, in full disclosure, we did whatever we were doing yesterday, and I was in an energetic container for it, and I knew it was going to be rough because the people there are all really high frequency. So I've had a full purge today. Again, lots of water, grounding, grounding foods. But you want to also not be having anything too heavy, because that, like Diana said, can lead to the sickness as well. But it's been a bit emotional. And then what will happen is you just kind of, in my experience anyway, you just re-regulate then. But once you've done that a few times, like you said, you're getting used to these higher frequencies and stuff. And he's able, because he's probably doing this, and he's like, oh, a bit lower, a bit higher, a bit lower, trying to titrate it as you go. But it'll probably continue to change as you expand and are able to hold higher and higher frequencies as well.
My internet is energy sickness. Oh man, because it's just hard to keep it going. But I absolutely vibe with all of that. And then it's like, where are we going? Because I like what you say there about the going back there to the astrology, about it being like a circle, because I hadn't thought about that, because we all know we live in a torus field of energy, which is, if you look at the top, it's a circle. And when we talk about auric fields, biofields, like they're all part of our matrix of literally a big bubble that we're in, like a torus filled, I guess, donut, but still really it is a bubble. And the torus, the center, the eye of the storm, is literally us. And so all that energy and everything we're dealing with is is ascension. So I agree with what you said there about like how ascension is. It's increasing us, but at the same time, when we increase us, because the all is mind, we increase reality. We increase what we're capable of. We increase our options, right? Because timelines, options. If you want more optimal timelines, then you want more options to choose from. And that starts with upgrading the self. This is why like spirituality 101, like heal yourself, heal. Carl Jung should be like your go-to first dude, because you need to heal, because that just clears up the space. And then once the space is cleared, you get better connections, more clear connections with these beings. Because I spent years dealing with beings, and it was a constant toss between trickster or helper. Like that whole thing with my grandma after that happened, going back to that story, like after that happened, I was like, I let myself be convinced, oh my God, I killed grandma. Like I killed grandma.
Yeah.
And I let myself revert back to like this state of always, because the witch wound, I have that. And I'm pretty sure I've not always been a good witch. You know what I mean? So like it's in me, like this is why we have to alchemize our darkness, but at the same time be comfortable with darkness, because we all have that within us, that primordial evil, so to say. So like having that like they'll just do things to us. It sounds like you're through that. Did you have a lot of time with trickster beings? Because I wasted years with them.
You know, it's interesting because I have not. Furthermore, I think that it's a fun topic to look at in each individual person's experience. I feel like, once again, when we go back to that soul and the soul's curiosity, that what we are experiencing is because it is assisting us consciously in some form or another. When I had my awakening, and I went through a very thorough 9-month program, we learned about all the different energy and you know, vibration. And we're talking about the very beginning 101 of spirituality. I mean, I didn't know anything, nothing. And so this was like the mystery school. Well, one of the things we were taught in mediumship, and I did it, but it was not my I don't know how to describe it. Somewhere in my life too, I just don't have access to, it's like, that's just like meh. It's like I don't have access to those realms. So I would not be the person to call if you wanted to read, you know, your past relatives. My grandfather appeared to me, yes, but I haven't had much experience with. Most of my energies have been from galactic, ancient ancestral archetypes like Merlin or Thoth, and angelic. Yeah.
It makes you wonder, because you said it was 2021, and I noticed big time in 2020, there was a big shift. Like I always call it, like there's my awakening, but then there's my positive awakening, and the positive came in 2020. And I think something happened where maybe we shifted timelines, because after that, there wasn't so many trickster beings after that. And I used to think it's because I got better, but hearing your story, maybe something happened. And then all the people waking up since COVID, like something might've shifted, that maybe, I don't know, like we're better protected from tricksters, like who knows? Because like there was, but then you still see it like in, oh God, I tried going on Quora for a minute, whatever you call it, Quora, to just expand social media wise. And I got banned because it was filled with people talking about black magic. How do I do black magic? What's this? What's that? It's all black magic. I'm like,
wow.
I'm like, you're proving right for burning the witches. I was like, I always thought they were done for burning the witches. We were just shamans. Who would do black magic? That's evil. Like maybe there was like 10 people that did it. Like, you know what I mean? But it was like filled with thousands of people discussing black magic. And I was just going there. I wasn't being rude. I was being very like, kind of like trying to be like a teacher and be like, actually, and just try to like, the all is mind, law of vibration, law of cause and effect. Like you are going to be smiting yourself by doing black magic. Like, what are you thinking? I got banned. So clearly Quora wants to keep their black magic.
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Where do we go
Oh,
from black magic? No,
yeah.
I've definitely enjoyed this conversation. This has been enlightening. I love your energy. It is fantastic. If you want to give people just like a long drawn out like advertisement for yourself, like what can people do to work with you? How can they work with you? The options, and then where to find you.
Okay, yeah, of course. So my website is my name, CassandraDeAnn.com. And right now, I'd say my most exciting place is doing the one-on-one trance channeling sessions. And I'm excited even locally where I am moving towards group trance channeling sessions. So this has been exciting because it's almost hard to describe what people are experiencing. It's like if you could feel like in an instant you have access to absolutely completely any possible thing you needed to shift, understand, heal, evolve, grow. It has just been so powerful. One of my recent sessions that I had, and it's hard because my consciousness is removed, so like I don't know, but it's like I've had people say that it can almost be difficult to ask questions because basically what you're doing is I go back and you're having direct dialogue with this energy that is communing with you, where you have the floor for the client to ask whatever. And I've been told that the frequency is so high, it is almost shocking for people at first that it is so real. They do not feel like it's me there at all. And they're sort of like it takes their breath away at first to feel like, oh my gosh, like, how do I proceed? It's kind of this mode of like, oh my gosh. Well, the last session I had, the girl said that not only the guidance that came through was so powerful, but she was sobbing and sobbing. And she said she said, wow, why I'm expressing so much emotion right now isn't just because the words, but it is because connecting to that energy, communicating with me, saw me, heard me. I felt more of an intense sense of love than I've experienced from any connection relationship I have ever had with anyone. And
Wow.
she said it was like almost hard to digest, and was completely unexpected. And so they've been extremely powerful in helping and shift. There's just a gifted way they have of helping you understand that piece that's like that nagging thing you've been, circling around. It's like one little way of just describing it or helping you energetically. And it just is like aha moments. So I've been loving doing them. I love my galactic astrology readings. Those are awesome. They are great for individuals that are really looking to start their journey of getting to know their origins, where they came from, their souls, as I said, those interest areas of the soul. So yeah, all of that's on my site. But yeah, I'd say that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Beautiful. And what's your astrology sign?
I am an Aries sun, Libra rising, Capricorn moon, and a Leo north node. 11th house. Yeah.
Beautiful.
It has taken me a while to come out of my shell, to be seen and to be heard. I have a Pluto rising and a 8th house ruler. There's a lot of subconscious, a lot of death, rebirth, transformation energy, which is also felt by my clients. Most of the time after a session, especially if I'm connecting through the Akashic records or trance channeling, I'm getting a lot of clients that are experiencing, like we said, sudden symptoms of shifts, changes in food intake, energetic quantum leaps, sudden interactions with higher knowing, jumps in intuition, a lot of quick jumps. So
Very
yeah,
catalytic, aren't you then?
yeah. So
Yeah. Awesome.
Beautiful. Then did you have any final thoughts, Sam?
I just want to say thank you so much for gracing us with your presence and your time. I'm absolutely delighted to have connected with you. You've really illuminated me and expanded my thinking, which is something that me and Diana both really love, don't we? And I'd love to reach out and probably get a reading with you. Actually, you've piqued my interest.
awesome. Oh, thank you. I would love that.
Oh,
You both have
she's
beautiful
jammed.
energy as well.
It's not me for once.
It's so, yeah, it's so complementing the different frequencies. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, there we go. You're back.
Oh, did you lose me?
Did we lose you or did you guys lose me? I don't know.
Oh no, we lost Cassandra.
Okay, good. That's what I thought.
I was just saying that you both have beautiful energy as well, and it's very complementing to one another. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I know. We started doing a panel together, and I was just like, this works. Let's do more. But thank you so much for being here today. You can find both their links in the description below if you're watching from YouTube. So we have Samantha from the Metaphysical Fat podcast. Her links are below, and as well as Cassandra's. You can connect with either one. So thank you so much for being here, ladies. And thank you, audience, for being here as well. I'm just going to leave this with an announcement, which I don't normally do, but my newest children's book is out now, and the advertisement will come at the closing. But it's a tiny little superhero, a wonderful story if you want to teach children how to use their minds to be their best self and to manifest. And it's told through an interesting story. So I would love if you check that out, but only if you feel called to. And thank you so much for being here, everybody. And we will see you all again next time. Goodbye for now.